Hi, hello, and welcome back to the channel. We talk horror here. If that's something you're into, please consider liking and subscribing. It's been a little while since I've updated this channel, and that's because I've moved. That's also why the space is so empty and why the audio might be a little echoey. I'm sorry about that if that's the case. Today, I'm going to talk about Horror in the High Desert Free, and I'm also going to give my franchise ranking. And that's actually where I want to start today, by ranking these films, because I think if I do that, you're going to understand why I'm making this video in the first place. So let's just get into that. At first place, I have the original Horror in the High Desert, which was a delight for me when I discovered it. I love found footage, but I mean, you have to dig through a lot of crap to find a diamond in the rough, and that's what I think Horror in the High Desert was for me. I was actually super surprised by the end of that movie, how tense I was at a found footage movie in 2023. Like, I did not think a found footage movie could reach the heights of the Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity for me, but Horror in the High Desert was one that really affected me in that same way. I'm not saying it's as good as those other films, but it had this like very back to basics mockumentary approach, kind of reminiscent of Lake Mungo. And I just thought it was very, very effective, and I enjoyed the overall case that movie explores. And then you had Horror in the High Desert 2, Minerva, which I have ranked second on my franchise ranking. It expands the scope of the original story. It tells the story of like two more people who's gone missing in the same exact area that Gary from the first film went missing in. It maybe tries to do a little too much. It comes across as a little unfocused, but I still enjoyed that film, even though it is a step down from the original. And now we have Horror in the High Desert Free, which in my franchise ranking is in last place. And it's in last place by a pretty large margin. I have seen 55 horror movies this year so far, and I've ranked them all on Letterboxd. And Horror in the High Desert Free is currently ranked at 51st place. I did not enjoy this movie very much. Now, if you love found footage and you haven't seen the original, I would implore you to do so now, because for the review of this film, I will have to talk about what happened in the first film specifically. I'm going to try to avoid the second film as much as possible, but the first one will be spoiled here, so I implore you to watch that if you enjoy found footage. I also feel a little bad because this franchise is made by indie filmmakers. You know, they're obviously working with limited resources, but I am not going to mince my words here. I thought Horror in the High Desert Free, Firewatch, sucked, and I don't think you should spend your money on it. Basically, this is a complete retread of the first film. We have a new main character, Oscar, who's gone missing after he goes to the same area as Gary from the first film. Oscar went out to this area to find out what happened to Gary, which I don't really think is an engaging storyline at all, because we know what happened to Gary by the end of the first film. We see Oscar's footage spliced in between talking head segments and interviews, just like the first two films. And the talking heads are trying to piece together what happened to Oscar, which again isn't very engaging to me, because we know what happened to Gary at the end of the first film. So the same thing probably happened to Oscar if he went to the same area. The monsters probably got him, right? I don't think there's like an attempt to set up a new mystery or storyline in the slightest. I had to watch this movie in two parts because I found it so mind-numbingly dull. And I guess the thing that I'm trying to get at here, the thing that I think is so egregious about this third movie in a franchise, is that it does not attempt to propel the story forward in any way. Found footage movies often get criticized because nothing ever happens in them, and this movie is a prime example of that. Some of the found footage segments run very long. We're talking like 5 to 10 minutes of uninterrupted footage, but there's never really any payoff. I get that they're trying to build tension, but the footage always cuts off before anything happens. It makes for a really frustrating viewing experience, especially when the found footage segments have been so good in the other films in this franchise. franchise. Another aspect of the film that I wanted to bring up is its subtitle, Firewatch. It's called that because in the beginning of the film, they mentioned that Oscar went out exploring while forest fires were ravaging the surrounding areas to where Gary went missing. They then show some stock footage of forest fires, but it's never brought up again. The implication here is that Oscar was able to roam freely in the area due to park rangers and law enforcement being occupied with the natural disaster. But once again, it never comes back up after the first 10 minutes, and they named the fucking movie Firewatch. The little pieces of new information we get retcon things that happens in the original, which was a really baffling decision to me. It's like they couldn't quite figure out how to build a new compelling story, so instead they just go back and give us more puzzle pieces to a puzzle that's already been completed. The main piece of new information we get is that the area that Gary went to in the first film is really hard to get to. I don't think we needed a whole new movie to spell that out, because if you watch the original, you probably figure that out. What I find so frustrating about all of this, and why I'm harping on the fact that there's very little substance to this movie, is that the movie has the audacity to end on sequel bait. The filmmakers have already confirmed that there will be a fourth and fifth film, and in my opinion, they are stretching this story out as far as possible with the very limited material they have. It's really surprising to me because there are still really interesting ideas and things to explore in this world that they've created, but they never really get to any of it, and I'm suspecting they never will. The monsters in this franchise seem to only want to protect their land, so the more people that are looking into Gary's disappearance, the more people are in danger. I'm not trying to reframe this whole franchise like the monsters are the good guys, but there's definitely a lot of fucking around and finding out in this franchise. I feel like the film alludes to this, but it never actually comments on it. They also mention things like social media and online bullying in this third film, like they do in the original, but you don't actually have anything new to say about it. I guess in general, that's what makes this film so disappointing to me, because you have to compare it to the original. It's so similar to that first film, but worse in every conceivable way. Even the main character of Oscar, his motivations as to why he's out there are in a lot of ways very similar to Gary's in the first film. But Gary was a fully fledged character. You liked Gary, and that's what made the whole film work. Oscar just feels like a caricature of someone struggling with addiction. He goes on this physical quest to mirror his personal mental battle, but we never actually get to know him. This whole film just feels like padding, and you should not spend your money on it. I regret watching it, and I'm not going to continue on with this franchise in the future. I think it's important to vote with your wallet in these types of situations, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to support low effort found footage movies like this. It is a shame because I like the first one so much, but at least we still have that original. Alright, thanks for listening to this very quick rant. I will be back with more videos in the future, hopefully with more positive reviews. Leave a like, comment. Have you seen this movie? Maybe you liked it more than me. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.